Thanks for coming. Nice little turnout. Good to see everybody. The room got a little bit more handsome here as Deputy Brashears walked in. So we're glad that he could join us today. My name is Ryan Field, and I'm going to kind of host today's town hall. But these happen once a month, and we have the opportunity to have a meeting with the mayor and then each of our chiefs, our chief of police and our fire chief. And we're so grateful for them. The mayor's actually traveling today. And so we thought we'd switch things up a little bit and we'd have a guest speaker. So we invited Deputy Brashears from our POP team. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. And then he was supposed to have a partner with him, his partner on the POP team, Deputy Cleveland. I understand that he's out doing POP things. So we invited the city engineer. And so here in just a few minutes, I'll have each of these gentlemen up here introduce themselves, but just a few housekeeping rules. So it's kind of an open forum town hall. It's really for you. We'd like to have you ask questions. I'm going to ask each gentleman up here to introduce themselves, tell a little bit about their agency and the job that they do. And then really it's up to you. We'd like to have you ask questions. We'd like it to be as interactive as it possibly could be. That's really what makes these fun and informative for everybody. I do ask, though, that when you have a question, if you wouldn't mind, would you just raise your hand? I'm going to bring you the microphone. This is getting recorded, and it's also being streamed, and so we want to make sure that those who are watching remote have the opportunity to hear the questions and the answers. So we'll go about an hour, give or take, and hopefully it just flies by, and it's like it's the best hour of your life because it's so fun and interactive. So I heard some introductions before, but my immediate left, that's Chief Greg Tominski from Mid-Star Fire. To his left is Chief Zach Hessing from our Star Police. And then, of course, Deputy Brashears from one of our fine deputies on our local force. And then again, Ryan Morgan, our city engineer. And so real quick, I guess I'll turn it over to Chief Tominski if you want to kick us off, Chief.
You bet. Thank you, everybody, for coming again to this. This is great. I'll start off with a little bit about our organization, and then I'll go on to what we're doing today and some of the stuff you might have seen on social media or our website. So I've been with Star Fire District for 10 years, and then about 4 years ago, we entered into a agreement to operate as one fire department with Middleton. So that's where this term Mid-Star comes from. We are still two separate boards with two separate budgets. We just operate as one fire department to help better serve both communities. We're better off with the 3 stations that we currently have than we were with just one each. But like I said, we are still two separate boards and two separate budgets. What we do share is administration. So I'm the fire chief over both Middleton and Star. Dave Sparks is the operations chief. Victor Eastloss is the fire marshal. And then we have district administrator Robin. And then she has 2 assistants. And together we save both districts about $430,000 each. And we've taken that money and we've put it to boots on the ground. So that's where we get we're able to open up the station that's on Kingsbury that was sitting there empty. I don't know if all of you have been here for 10 years or longer, but it sat empty for almost 10 years. We ran maintenance out of it. We had BLM there a little bit, but now it is staffed by our employees and we have 3 stations. So with that, we'll move forward to what we're doing today. Today we are both boards, Star Board and the Middleton Board, have approved us to go out for a levy increase. And why we need a levy increase. Levy increase is for staffing future fire stations. We have a fire station that maybe some of you have seen on Floating Feather, the sign that's up there. It's in the permitting process right now. We are going to be building that fire station this year. That fire station is funded 100% by impact fees. So that piece of it, growth is paying for itself. So every house, every commercial building that comes into the fire district doesn't have to be just in the city limits of Star, but into the fire district of Star, pays a fee, and it goes to being able to build buildings and buying fire trucks. But those fees can only be used for things that have a life expectancy of 10 years or longer. So it's pretty limited. A lot of our stuff is right at 10 years. And so we can't buy like turnouts and air packs and that kind of stuff with impact fees because they won't go the span of that. So the operational part. So if you remember back in 2020, our legislators passed what they called House Bill 389 that reduced all of our property taxes. And it did reduce property taxes. And I think all of us appreciate not having to pay as much property tax. I mean, I do. Everybody does. But when that happens, somebody's budget suffers. And you have cities and counties and special districts. A fire district is a special district. Fire districts and cemetery districts and library districts and sewer districts and water districts, they didn't have much say-so into the writing of that bill. It was mostly bigger cities and bigger counties that had some input into that. And we were kind of left out of that conversation. Well, we were left out of that conversation. But what people have to understand is that the fire district is 97% funded by property tax. We don't have anything to sell. We don't have any goods to sell. We can't raise our prices on anything to make up the difference of lost revenue. It's all property tax. So over the last few years, we still increase our budget. It's not that we don't increase our budget, but we can't increase it faster than inflation. And all of us are suffering from inflation. It's not just the fire district. All of us are suffering from it, and we are to the point where we have to go to our voters and ask for a permanent levy increase to be able to staff that fire station on Floating Feather Road and equip it, because we don't have enough funds to do that. Matter of fact, for the 2024 budget, we had to take 3% of the 2024 budget out of savings because the increased tax revenue that we got wouldn't cover it. So that's a little bit about what we're working on right now. I have some flyers that, if you haven't already seen them on social media or on our website, of a survey. And so I'll pass these out before we're done today. And we really appreciate if people get on there and fill out the survey. It takes 6-7 minutes or whatever to answer those questions so we can get the pulse of what our citizens really are looking for. If you have watched the social media, there is some questions out there that we haven't engaged with yet because more information is coming out every single day that we're putting out to the public about we should buy different fire trucks. We should make development pay for itself. And all that is correct. And what I wanted people to understand is development is paying for itself. That's what's building the fire stations. Fire stations 10 years ago cost about $1 million to build. Today, fire stations, the two that just finished in Meridian, were $8.5 million each. The one that we're going to build, I'm an advocate of building what your city looks like and not putting a commercial industrial building out there in a residential area. So we're going to build a fire station that looks very similar to a house with a really big garage. And when you drive through some of these subdivisions, you see those. So it's not uncommon anymore. Yeah. So we're going to be building that fire station with impact fees, and it's going to cost us about $2.5 million. So we're trying to be fiscally responsible there. And then there were some comments about apparatus. The cost of apparatus, I can give you an exact example. We bought, each district, Middleton and Star, bought identical fire trucks. 2021 is when they went into service. They were $602,000. If I order those fire trucks today, exactly the same, they're 1.1 million, and it takes 42 months to get it. So even if I had all this extra money and I bought a brand new fire truck, I wouldn't see it for over 3 years. It's crazy. And so what we've done is we've taken our older fire trucks that we use as a reserve now, and we're sending them to a place, that's where I was yesterday, in Nevada that rebuilds them. So these engines are being completely rebuilt, new engines, transmissions, pumps, paint, upholstery, I mean, the whole 9 yards. They will look brand new when they get here. But the two that we have in progress right now are $450,000 and $500,000. So that's a huge tax, or it's a huge savings to our taxpayers by doing that. Once they get here, yes, one of them is going to be a 2006 engine, but everything's brand new. So it's going to last that 10 years. But that's the way of the future for us, because we can't collect enough money in property tax to go out and buy new engines all the time. The ladder truck that we have, in 2018, that ladder truck was $1.1 million. Today, to buy that is $1.6 million, and it takes 4 years to get. So it's out of control. We can blame it on whatever we want. I mean, it went up when COVID happened, and it never went down. So that's a little bit about the fire district and what we're doing today, and I am happy to answer any questions that anybody might have.
Thanks, Chief. I just wanted to add, I know the mayor would have a couple comments right here. So one thing that the city has done to try to help Chief is when House Bill 389 was passed and we saw that there was going to be a deficit and we were only going to be able to raise our budgets by 8%, that wasn't going to cut it. So the mayor went in front of the Building Contractors Association, and he worked out with them a plan that said, if we're going to continue to be able to build in STAR, we have to be able to find a way to fund our police and our fire. Otherwise, we aren't going to be able to issue any more building permits. So they worked together and they came up with what we're calling a proportionate share, or I'm sorry, a mitigation fee. And so each new building permit pays $2,320 in a mitigation fee. $1,200 of that goes to the fire department and $1,120 goes to the police department. That is to help staff new officers and the new station. To date, we have collected enough that we can staff Chief's new fire station for 1 year with what we've collected. So he can go hire those firefighters, he can train them, he can put them in the fire station, and we can give them a job for 1 year. We don't know how we're going to pay him after that. So that's part of the problem that we're having with House Bill 389, and part of the reason that their commissioners have made the decision that they need to come out for a levy increase. But we're extremely grateful to Mayor Chadwick for his willingness to sit at a table with the BCA, the Building Contractors Association, and to come up with that solution so that we can at least help chip away at that deficit. So with that, any questions out there for Chief Tyminski?
Yeah, you bet. I really appreciate your putting that new station in up in along Floating Feather, because we live right up there in Pristine Estates. And so I was very conscious of when I first drove by and said, wow, a new fire department's coming right in here. Well, that's, I think, in response to all of the development that's going on up in that area. My question is, what's the growth rate that you're expecting in the city, and what will that fund, since you have the assessment fees and that sort of thing that are going to come in? What are you expecting to come in as a percentage of, or as a dollar amount?
Well, our dollar amount is capped at 8% today. So our city has been growing about 13%, just the city. And then we have the rural areas outside the city within the district that's growing too. We could be closer to the 15% total, but the city itself has been growing at 13%. And before the tax bill was passed, the special districts would get 100% of annexation, 100% of new construction, and there was no cap. We could raise our budget 3%, and then we got 100% new construction and annexation. Now we get 90% of new construction, 90% of annexations, but annexations are brought in at a different time, and then the total cap is cut off at 8%. So
What's the cap? What causes the cap? What's the point of the cap?
The point of the cap was to save taxpayers' dollars. The legislature thought that doing it the way that they were doing it was raising all of your guys' property taxes, a fraction of an amount every single year, and over the years, it went up. We have tracked about 25 residences in Star, all different places within the rural area and within the city, and we can't find where that happened. We can't, our budget was growing exactly what our community was growing. Now, we can't grow our budget with our community. So we're forced to go out and ask for a levy increase, which it kills me. It's the last thing that I wanted to ever have to do, but at this point, I don't have a choice. Yeah. And it's significant. I'll just tell you right now, it's significant. It's $53 for every $100,000 of taxable value is what we're asking for. It's $2.25 million. The other part that I forgot to mention is like Chief Hessing, when he adds a POP team or adds another police officer, one police officer makes a big difference in the community. To open a fire station, I have to have a minimum of 9. And we're at the size now that we're going to have to hire 12 because we have to count for time off, sick, injury, so on and so forth, because we have to have 3 people in the fire station minimum every single day to operate an engine.
Great question. Any other questions for Chief Tominski? All right, well, if you think of some, raise your hand. Chief Hessing, how about you? You want to take over?
Absolutely. Well, good afternoon, man. I'm glad to look out there and see so many people here. We love that. We want your input. I want to know what you're seeing, how Star Police can better serve the community, and having people come to these and ask questions and bring up concerns is a huge part of that. So thank you for being here. So real quick about Star Police. So I know I've talked about it before, but I'll kind of brush on it real quick. So the City of Star contracts their police services with the Ada County Sheriff's Office. So how that works is I'm actually lieutenant with the Ada County Sheriff's Office, and I'm signed by the sheriff to be the chief of police out here in Star. So the sheriff and the mayor work together on who they want out here as the chief. And so the Star Police Department, because of that, we actually save quite a bit in taxpayer money using the resources of the Ada County Sheriff's Office combined with the resources of the City of Star. Every one of the deputies here that we have, so we have 18 commissioned deputies that work just in the City of Star. Every once in a while, we'll go out and help unincorporated North County or Eagle if need be, if they need help, just like they come and help us. But we have 18 commission that's focused just on the City of Star. So that's 10 patrol deputies that work 24/7 around the clock. Now, not all 10 are on around the clock. So that's very important to know that they work shifts. They work 10.75-hour shifts, and then we have a blue week and a silver week, depending on who's off and who's on. Usually, in a given time, we have about 2 patrol deputies on in the City of Star during the day. So, but we have 10 patrol deputies, 2 sergeants, 3 detectives. Those are split up between 2 person crime detectives and 1 property crime detective. We do have one, just this last October 1, we added 5 additional deputies to the City of Star. One of those was a detective. He's a person crimes detective that we actually based him out of Star Elementary School. So his office right now he has 2 offices, but he's mostly out of Star Elementary because Star Elementary does not have a school resource officer. As we see our society today, one of our scariest things is if there's ever an active shooter at the elementary school, we want to make sure we have a guy there as fast as possible that can respond quickly. So that was kind of a Band-Aid that we have for right now that Star Elementary has until West Ada School District can work out where they can get the funding to get a school resource officer in that school. So with the 3 detectives, and then we have 2 problem-oriented police team, 2 deputies assigned to that team. That's a POP team. We'll kind of explain more about that here in a second of what they do. And then myself as the chief. So that's your 18 commissioned out here in Star. And then we have 1 professional staff, which is Jada Butterfield, who's our administrative assistant that helps with the front office and answering calls and people that walk in and helps us out there. So just kind of give you an idea, that contract, it costs the City of Star about $2.8 million to have the Star Police contract. But if you look at our size compared to other cities around us, the other city, they're almost double that with their own police department. And the reason being is I don't have to worry about all the HR stuff because we still use the Ada County Sheriff's Office for all that. I don't have to worry about crime lab type things. I don't have to worry about victim witnesses that we have a team of 6, I think it's 5 plus their supervisor. Victim witnesses that come out and they help with victims of domestic battery or any other crimes that they kind of help with that. So I don't have to worry about, that's part of the contract. And the other very unique thing with the contract is we have, the Ada County Sheriff's Office is the biggest law enforcement agency in Idaho. And I have all the resources at my disposal if something big happens in the city of Star. I know, I hate mentioning it, but when we had that weird incident at Hunters Creek Park, where we had that suicide, homicide type deal that happened out there, within a couple hours, I had 14 detectives working that case, and we had that person found within, I think it's about 16 hours. We knew exactly who it was and had him in custody. If I was a normal police department, we couldn't have done it that fast. And so that's what the power of that contract really does for us. And so I really appreciate, again, the sheriff, Matt Clifford, he does a great job, and he, all those resources are available to the city that I live in here in Star. I really appreciate that. So I want to talk a little bit, because it's just kind of been a little bit of a topic, because of, we have a very much proactive policing model here in Star. And Ada County Sheriff's Office, why we do, we try to be as proactive as possible. We believe that the more proactive we are, the more that it deters crime from happening within the city. Well, as part of that, every month I get up in front of City Council and I give a monthly report that looks a lot like this. And I get up and I tell kind of the city and City Council and the mayor some of the things that we're doing and how proactive we were that month and the different crimes that we saw happen during that month. All these reports are on the city website that you can go on to. If you go to City of Star website, you can click on, I believe, the tab police, and then you can go to reports and it'll show you that report. And we've been doing it. I've been chief out here for about 2.5 years, and I've been doing it for about 2 years, doing those reports. So they're really nice to look at and kind of see what crime trends are going on and different things. And luckily in the city of Star, we don't have a huge crime problem. But I want to address real quick some of the things that we're seeing, and some people have asked, because if you look at the crimes here in Star, that they, our crime rate, so as a goal, the city of Star, we want to stay under 18 crimes per 1,000 people, which is quite a bit less than any other city around us. And that's been our goal we redid the comprehensive plan with the mayor in 2021, I think is when it was, when I was first out here, maybe 22. But January there. So we did go, so if you look at it, we're at actually 18.3 crimes per 1,000. But here's what's happening. And back in August or September, I got up and spoke in front of City Council because we're talking about this problem-oriented police team and being more proactive. The more proactive the police department's going to get, the more arrests we're obviously going to get. So the more charges that are going to happen in the city of Star, which will drive our crime rate up. So there's 3 different categories of crimes that we look at. One of them is persons, and that's any felony crime that happens from, well, felony and misdemeanor, that happens between a person to another person. So your batteries, your aggravated batteries, your domestic violence batteries, hopefully you never get them, homicides, those type of things would be the person crimes side of it. The other side of that, which the person crimes is more your violent crimes. When you look at how violent a city is, usually it's the person crimes you're looking at if the dangers of that city. The second category is property crimes, and that's any property crime that, you know, your thefts, your frauds, your burglaries. We get quite a few people going around, I call it jockey boxing. So they're going around seeing what cars are unlocked, opening that car, and then they're going through, rifling through, getting changed or stealing stuff out of the car. So that's counted in those property crimes as a vehicle burglary. And then we have what's called society crimes. Society crimes are your drug crimes. So your drug charges. There's also a couple listed here, you know, gambling, pornography, prostitution, weapon law violations, those type of things. But majority of the society crimes we have in Star are drug charges. So to give you an idea, from 2022 to 2023, our person crimes, we had 110 person crimes total throughout the year of 2022. In 2023, we had 86. So we actually dropped by 22%, which to me, again, looking at a city, that means the violence of that city is dropping because those are the ones that are hit the news, right? It usually is a person crimes that are out there. Our property crimes, in 2022, we had 92. In 2023, we had 106. So it went up 13%. And as I look at that, a lot of that is, sad enough, juvenile vandalism type calls, right? Because they go out there and they do some spray painting or different things. And then it's your vehicle theft, not vehicle burglaries, not the actual theft of the vehicle, but people going in and usually it's unlocked vehicles. Rarely do we see them actually break windows to get into vehicles, but it's unlocked vehicles and they can be older teens that are doing it or whatnot. Our society crimes, and this is where our crime rate, if you look at the paper, it shows it's going up. Society crimes went from 67 in 2022 to 132 in 2023. So it went up 51% in just 1 year. But if you look at the amount of traffic stops that we're doing now that we have this team out there being proactive, just to give you an idea on traffic stops for the month of February. So February 2023, we made a total of 261 traffic stops in that 1 month. February 2024, we made 440 traffic stops in that 1 month. So as you can imagine, the more traffic stops you're making, the more drugs you're getting off the street. So the more drugs are getting off the street, the more drug charges that are going to show that STAR has. So I think there's, and again, I can't say for sure, but I truly believe there's a connection between society crimes. As that goes up, our person crime starts to go down because less drugs are coming through the street of STAR because they know that, oh, they're making a lot more traffic stops in City of STAR, and we're arresting people for marijuana charges all day long. And we will continue doing that as long as we have a prosecutor that allows us to do that. Because I truly believe with those marijuana cases, they realize that, oh, we better not bring anything else through here because we take that serious. And so as you look at that, I know that I've had a couple of phone calls because people are concerned that, oh man, the crime rate's going up through the City of STAR. We're still among some of the lowest crime rate statewide. And we want to keep it that way. But I truly believe that you'll see it go up a little bit because society, we're not going to slow down on proactive calls. We're going to continue doing it. I think part of the problem we have throughout the country is that police can't do their job very, very well because they're hand-tied because the prosecutor or just different legislative issues that come up, they can't go out there and actually do the job. I truly believe as long as I'm chief here that we will continue pushing hard to make sure we're proactive in keeping the drugs off the streets and talking with people. Now, one of the things I want to point out, because it's a concern of mine, I've been pulled over a couple of times in my life, and I hate getting citations too. So what I want to point out is, though we made 440 traffic stops in City of STAR, that does not mean we wrote 440 citations. A lot of times, and I truly believe we hire some of the best. One of the cool things about the contract is a normal police department, when they hire somebody, you do their background, and then you have maybe an hour oral board to talk to them in person of who they are, and then they go through the hiring process. You have very little time to see who this person really is and what their character is. What's nice about the seat I sit in, all these people already work for the Ada County Sheriff's Office. I'm seeing what they do, how they work, talking to their supervisors, and I'm pulling some of the best deputies to the City of STAR. And they like coming to the City of STAR because the city council, the mayor, and the city itself loves police, and they feel it here. But oftentimes, I know when I used to drive as a patrol deputy, when I go through a fast food restaurant, oftentimes I couldn't pay for my own meal because somebody else did. That goes a long ways, and that gets out, and then so some of the best people, best deputies out there want to come to the City of STAR. So what's great about it is we're choosing people who want to be in law enforcement or in it for the right reasons. So when they're deciding if they want to cite you for something, it's their discretion whether I'll never tell them to cite somebody. It's up to them. So they're actually deciding whether or not, do I just verbal counsel this person and talk to them, hey, this is slow down and here's the reason why, we have children play around the corner, whatever it might be, or does this person deserve a citation? And I would say majority of the time it is just a verbal counseling. Hey, please slow down. We're trying to keep kids safe. We're trying to keep public safe. I'm happy to report that according to NHTSA, the National Highway Traffic Safety Association, we had 0 traffic fatalities in the City of STAR last year. I think that's huge, and I want to keep it that way. So again, if you have any questions about the crime stats or about the different crime trends going through These reports are great. My phone number is I'm always available. And so if you have questions about that, I'm more than happy to answer it. I think I hit pretty much on a majority of it. I'm gonna, let's see if there's any questions out there. Let me stop here for a second.
Yeah, and just real quick, thanks, Chief. And I wanted to make sure Chief Tominski got his due as well. He also produces a report that he presents to the city council every month as well. It's also found on our website. So you can go and look at everything that they do, their number of calls they've taken, their average response time, what type of calls it is that they're taking. And we love the reports that they do because they're very, very informative. And I will tell you that I'm trying to act like the mayor and think about what he was said. And I think I've watched most of these. He and the council are very committed to making sure that these two gentlemen and their departments are fully staffed and funded as much as they can be. The goal is to STAR we're a desired community to live in, and we need to make sure that our police and fire are well funded and that they're well staffed and that they're well supported. And so we thank the community for everything that they do for both of those agencies. Any questions for Chief Hessing? I'll come here and then I'll go over this
you.
side.
Okay, so last month you talked about your dispatcher issues.
Yes.
Do you still have those?
Yes.
Okay.
So just to bring up the speed of what she's talking about, last month I talked at a town hall. One of the things that's brought up is dispatchers. So we have, if you look back in June or July of last year, one of the things the sheriff asked for funding was for more dispatchers. We don't have enough dispatchers for our dispatch center, and we're trying to get more. Just to give you an idea, and again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but approximately about 100,000 calls 911 calls went unanswered because we don't have enough dispatchers to answer those. So we're trying our best to not have that happen, because how scary would it be if you call 911 and no one answers? Now, I don't know how many of those were actually, because we get a lot of hang-ups or accidental 911 calls that come up. But I'm guessing a few of those were probably pretty serious calls that needed to be answered. And so that is an issue. We're still looking at it this year. I know the sheriff's probably going to go in front of the commissioners, the Ada County commissioners, to ask for more funding for that dispatch center. But yes, thanks for bringing that up.
Microphone so people at home can hear. Thank you.
So that dispatch center, how many cities call into that center?
So it's all of Ada County. So you have the Ada County Sheriff's Office, the Boise Police Department, Meridian Police Department, Garden City Police Department, Eagle Police Department, us, CUNA Police Department, and then all of the fire and the paramedics all go through the same,
Who pays?
and all the cities, yep.
And that budget for those dispatchers is coming from where?
It's come
Just,
from the Ada County. So it's come from the Ada County Sheriff's Office is where that budget comes from.
do the cities that are using that service contribute to that fund?
So right now, I don't believe so. For right now, they do. Maybe he can answer that better.
So like Star Fire District, we pay almost $15 per call that we get billed from Ada County Sheriff's Office for calls. And I know all the other fire agencies and Ada County paramedics all pay per call. We pay a total into the Ada County budget for dispatch about $1.3 million a year.
Okay, and that adds up. But how about like Boise Police and, those Meridian PD, are they?
I'm
paying
not
into
familiar
those?
with the police side. I only know the fire and EMS side when we get our access. We operate our EMS system all as one from fire and police, or excuse me, fire and EMS. And so I get that budget and I see what we pay to Ada County Sheriff's Office for dispatch, but the police aren't included in that.
So Chief Hessing, how do I find out if they pay into that?
So that's a good question to ask. I'll find out more of how that funding works. It's going to be the finance department at the Ada County Sheriff's Office would know more of how that's funded. So I can look into that and find out for you.
It would make a difference for money for you guys if you're getting paid for those services like how the fire does. I was just curious.
Right. Yep.
Chiefs, correct me if I'm wrong, is there not a 911 tax on all of our property taxes as well?
There's one on your cell phone.
Okay,
It's a,
phone.
yeah,
I know there's a 911 tax. I just don't know what it's.
there was some
so-
legislation this year to raise it from $1 to $2 or $3, but I don't know that it went anywhere.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm just curious if you can shed any more light on the Ambler alert this morning about armed and dangerous person.
Yes. So it's still under investigation. So there's some things that I can't share yet, just because of the investigation, and we're still looking for the person. And that's partly why, and I apologize, I started my morning very early this morning, and that's why I'm not in uniform and I'm in this polo shirt today. So just so everybody, to kind of give you a little synopsis. So an inmate from Idaho Department of Corrections who's in prison out there ended up having some type of medical issue. Was transported by IDOC, the Idaho Department of Corrections guards. It was transported to St. Al's. When they were leaving St. Al's, they were attacked. The suspect, Skylar Mead is his name. We believe it was planned, but suspect out in the parking lot ends up attacking the two IDOC employees. Ended up shots were fired there. And then Skylar Mead and this unknown suspect jumped into we believe it's a gray Honda Civic with, we believe, the Twin Falls County plates, 2T plates, and took off. And so right now we're still looking for them, but that's what the Amber Alert was about. Yep.
I got that alert this morning and was pleased as punch to hear my wife's phone go off at the same time mine was, and that everybody was getting this notice. But I didn't find the notice as clear as it needed to be, nor did I think it delivered any identifiable information. It just told you there is a problem, but didn't describe what car they would be in or what area they were specifically found in. So I just ask you to please, when you put out those notices, give us more to work with than just this happened.
Yep. You're absolutely correct. And I got the notice myself too, and I got some phone calls of, there's no information. What am I supposed to be looking for? It just says that police are looking for two bad people. That's what we do every day, right? So you're absolutely right. And we need to figure out how that was messaged out, who sent it out, and make sure there's more information. So yeah, thank you.
Of the traffic stops that you mentioned, I think for February, can you comment how many resulted in an actual citation and maybe a breakdown of those citations? Like, was the majority speeding, talking on your cell phone, DUI, et cetera?
So I don't have the numbers in front of me of how many citations were actually given. I know a lot of them coming through, and he could probably answer a little better, are speeding, because as soon as we change into a 4-lane out here, they feel like it's a racetrack coming through there. Me personally, just in the way I would imagine maybe 10% of those got citations. Again, we're not unless they really deserve it. We usually use pretty good discretion on not citing them. Now we do if they deserve it and they've earned it, they'll give one. But I do have how many misdemeanor citations were given in the month of February, if you'd like that. So in the month of February, we ended up doing 14 misdemeanor citations. Now, those are more for like driving without privileges or DWP type calls. They can range from a variety of things. So you have infractions, which is your kind of your lower speed limit infractions, those type of things, running a stop sign. Then you have the more severe of reckless driving or those type of things that the misdemeanor citations go to. And when we cite somebody for misdemeanor, if it's done in our presence, we can actually arrest them for it. Sometimes we don't. We just give them, the only difference between a misdemeanor citation and an actual arrest is the fact they don't get the ride to the jail and the booking photo. But all the paperwork and everything else is the same. And so there's just, it's actually a privilege. I don't say a privilege, but it's better for them if they just get the citation rather than the ride to the jail. And sometimes we do that instead of arresting them. So, but I don't know if he's out there more with Deputy Cleveland and giving those citations. So maybe he can answer more about how many citations he thinks given out or what he does. But I do know that we do give out quite a few misdemeanor citations, and then infraction citations. It kind of depends on the deputy. So I hope that kind of answers a little bit.
I think we got another question, and then Deputy Brashears will ask you about your handwriting skills here in just a minute.
Chief Hessing, that was my point also. When you get your report to the city council, it shows the number of stops, but I wished you would include the number of citations issued. And I guess it's going to be about 10% because when I've talked to officers, they have said on South Main, where there's quite a bit of breaking of the 20-mile-an-hour limit, they say we issue a warning unless it's a second stop for that same vehicle. We run it on there and see that that's been warned in the past, and then you'll issue a citation.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up because so our CAD system that we have, and the CAD system is the system we use on the computers in the vehicle. So every time that we perform a traffic stop, it keeps note, and any notes you put in there about that call, it'll keep in there. So when you pull that vehicle over and that plate comes up again, it'll actually tell you how many times they've been stopped for speeding or wherever it might be. So that is something that they do. If they see, oh, this person's been stopped 3 times already, we're going to issue a citation. Yeah. Well, yeah. So we will issue the citation on that. We'll be able to keep track of how many times.
The other thing is when that Amber Alert came through this morning, I got it as well. And amongst the pictures of the one suspect and the unidentified non-photo suspect, there was a link that gave the same information you just gave.
Oh, good. Okay.
It had a full detail of it and the time, 2:30 in the morning.
Yep.
And then again later when he was released. So it is there if you can search for it. I was lucky.
Oh, another question over here before we go to Deputy Brashears.
Thank you. Thank you for everything you guys do. Appreciate it. Question about the financing for the police department and the fire department. Are there any grants that are in the horizons? Any other way of funding to be able to, that we can help by fundraisers or anything that we can do to help get a patrol car, a K9 dog, something like that?
So there are a variety of grants out there, a lot of them from federal monies that come in. Matter of fact, one of the problem-oriented police team positions is funded, well, partly funded, $75,000 that's funded out of a grant that we wrote last year that the city council allowed us to apply for, and we did receive it. That's through NHTSA and ITD, Idaho Transportation Department. It helps us. They're kind of the manager of the grant, but it's federal monies that come from. And that grant is more focused towards any type of traffic enforcement, right? So we calculate every hour that our deputies do throughout the month. We can get reimbursed those hours up to that $75,000, if that makes sense. So it's helping us pay for that patrol deputy person. That doesn't help really with the equipment or those type of things. It's just that actual position itself, the man hours that we're putting into traffic enforcement. I know there's other grants out there. There's a I think it's called a COPS grant that you have to apply for in the fall. They're pretty, because so many people are applying for those grants because the cost of everything's going up. It's pretty hard to get into some of those. And then you also want to be careful because some of them have pretty stringent stipulations of what you can do, and they start kind of controlling how policing can be done in your city if you have this grant, that type of thing. And we don't want to step into those type of things. But there are different grants out there that we're researching for, and we're trying to find that extra funding for the police side of it too.
Yeah, and for the fire side, we have, local, we have like Firehouse Subs. We got a grant 3 years ago for a rescue boat, water rescue boat from Firehouse Subs for, I think it was $25,000, which is very helpful. And then they have what they call SAFER grant. And that's through the federal government. And we have looked at applying for a SAFER grant. We applied on the Middleton side last year and it was unsuccessful. They only funded nationwide like 3% of them. And they're very hard to get. And the other fear that you have is they pay 100% of wages and benefits for 3 years. But after 3 years, they give you nothing. And so we have to try to calculate, and because we have a cap on our funding now, it's easier to calculate how our growth is going to be, because it doesn't matter if we grow 25%, we're only going to get 8. So when we figured it out this year, because right now is the grant time, it started last week and it goes for another 10 days. But we wouldn't, without like getting a levy increase or anything else, we would not be able to keep those firefighters after the 3 years. We're not building enough budget authority to be able to do that.
All right. We have a question online from one of our listeners. Deputy Brashears, I'm going to throw this one your way, and Dana's going to read it. So get your catcher's glove on.
Okay, this person wants to know, as spring comes, is there a plan to manage large groups of bicyclists riding three across on Floating Feather, Beacon Light, and New Hope? It is dangerous.
It is dangerous. It is something that we are aware of and we have addressed previously before. When we have these kinds of things and we have the bikers come through, we do address those issues. I personally have done stops on those as well. A lot of it's education. A lot of it is people coming from other areas that don't realize that you can't be that many abreast for riders. So we take time to educate. That's a big portion of what we do with the POP team is education. It's not necessarily going to be something of writing that citation for that incident, because if we can educate, it's something that we can prevent in the future.
Awesome, thanks. Deputy Brashears, you want to just talk a little bit about the POP team? It's kind of new. It's new to you. It's new to STAR, and maybe Chief Hessing can help you a little bit there, but we'd love to hear a little bit about what's your day like.
So I'm Derek Brashears. I've been out here in STAR for I think 4 years now. This POP team was something that me and my partner, Deputy Cleveland, presented to Chief, I think 2 years ago, that we had come up with this idea of something that we wanted to do, that we saw the city's growing. We want to be proactive. We want to be able to focus on problems before they're problems. And a big portion of what this team is we want to educate. We want to be able to go out and help educate the public. We want to make sure that if there's a problem house, that we can take time and we can focus on that house and we can keep the neighborhood safe. If we're having problems in certain neighborhoods, South Main is one that we are familiar with, that we can spend time on those streets. So we created this team, and I've been in since February. I think John came over in October, I want to say. So we've been fully staffed now since February. You will see us around. We're in those blue Explorers that look a little bit different than the other cop cars. It makes us a little more inconspicuous, so that way we are able to see when there's issues and we're able to go around town with that kind of stuff. Like I said, the model that we're doing is more of education. We do a lot of the traffic stops, but the purpose of a citation is to change behavior. If we can educate and we can have that behavior change happen without a citation, and we can make it so this is a permanent fix, because that's what we want. We don't want a temporary solution, we want a permanent fix. So we do what we can to educate where we can. Now, there are those individuals that don't want to be educated, and sometimes they do need that citation as a good reminder too of what's going on. So far, what we've had with the team is we've gotten a great response from criminals of all people that they are not going on Highway 44 anymore. From what we've heard from different people and different connections in the underworlds that we have, 44 is a spot that you don't go because you go to prison. So they don't like to go down the street because they get pulled over. You'll see us on the side of the road a lot of times, and it's guys are going to jail when they're coming down this road. I started my day today doing a traffic stop and wound up going to jail because of it. So we're out there and we're doing what we can to enforce what we can. We see the issues that you guys are seeing, and we're stopping the cars that we don't want on the road with you guys. So that's where we're putting all of our efforts towards. We understand that there's issues in the neighborhoods as well, and we're working our way around there, and we're getting there. And what our plan has kind of been is we're hitting different pockets at different times because we can't be everywhere at once. So if we're able to see, hey, the Main Street's an issue, we'll hit Main Street. Floating Feather's an issue, we'll hit Floating Feather. Beacon Light. We know where these thoroughfares are that are problems, and we push ourselves out to there. With that, we also balance that on being on these main thoroughfares, because these main thoroughfares are where we're getting our bigger crashes. It's where we're getting our fatalities. It's where we're getting these things that we need people to slow down in order for it to be safe for everyone to commute. So that's kind of where our model's been. We work towards a lot of this stuff. It's not all traffic related. We work problem houses. If there's houses that we think are selling drugs, we focus on those houses. That's where we're doing traffic stops from those houses to see what's out there, to have our focus going towards there. It's been a group effort, and it's something that's ever growing and ever changing as we're getting this. We're kind of getting in the speed of things, and we're kind of coming up with what we need to and kind of figuring out our own routines and what we can do to help you guys out.
That's awesome. The question was, thanks, Gary, what does POP stand for?
Problem-oriented policing. So it's looking for an isolated problem, figuring out what that problem is, and coming up with that solution. Like I said, we want to be a permanent fix, not something that's a temporary Band-Aid. A lot of what law enforcement is reactive. A lot of it is we get a call for service, we go handle that call for service, and we leave and wait for the next one. What we've created is a team that's not our goal. Our goal is to find a problem before it's a problem and fix it. So if we know that there's going to be issues, if we know that there's a big event that's going on at Hunters Creek and we know that people park on Floating Feather in the no parking zone, we can proactively go there. We can identify that problem and we can fix it before somebody gets hurt, before a kid is going to be out there and running out into traffic. So if we have that stuff and we work along with the city, knowing that these events are happening, we create these plans and we're able to identify these issues and correct them.
I know, so a lot of the phone calls come to my desk as part of code enforcement, and I get a lot of complaints about people speeding through the subdivisions. Well, before, we barely had enough officers to do a whole lot. I'd go and talk to chief and I'd be like, he's like, I know we're getting the complaints. Well, now we're fully staffed thanks to our city council and the funding, and we have this POP team that when there are issues in subdivisions, that's where these guys are going to go focus. So I know it helps make my job a lot easier too, because we can address your complaints a lot quicker than me just saying, hey, well, sorry, people drive fast. I'll talk to chief. We'll see what we can do. So it's been a great addition. And I know the council and the mayor, they love the story. They pulled somebody over and the guy told the officers, doggone it, they told me not to come through Star. And they popped him. They got him. And so people are not coming through Star. They know better. And so that should make us all feel a little bit safer. So, yeah.
This is a question. Are they taking the other streets through Star, or are they just skipping 44?
So they're skipping 44. So you'll see us now, we're starting to work towards Chinden because Star does touch down there and we do have those issues down there. And Chinden honestly is one of the more dangerous areas that we have as well. I know a lot of people commute down there. A lot of our residents commute down there. And so we have taken some time and energy and effort to go down there. It's a pain in the butt right now to work. I'm going to be honest with you, with all that construction, it's hard for us to find spots. It's because we need to be safe as well when we're doing these traffic stops. And so finding spots there that's in a safe area where, yeah, the guy's doing 80, but sometimes the juice isn't worth the squeeze when we're not able to get through traffic to get to the guy. But we're aware of it and we're doing what we can. We're doing it as a collective group. Today, we actually had a group of people that one of our training days got canceled. And I think we had 6 officers total that we made our way out there and we were trying to come out there and make a presence and make it known. Because what we want is when that person sees all those cop cars and sees everyone on the side of the road, they know next time, hey, I don't know if he's around that corner. I don't know where he's at. He could be hiding. So that's what our goal is. Another one I wanted to bring up is I know Chief had mentioned with our CAD system that we identify with our warnings and everything. We actually have a new system called eSight, and that is a state system now that all of it communicates together. Someone and I can put them into that system and identify them as they got a warning today at Highway 44 and Star Road. They get pulled over in Twin Falls. They see that they got a warning for speeding in that same area here. Now, what that officer does with that warning, it's up to him. But what we can see from that is we can present this warning. We actually can print that as a paper copy that looks like a citation. It says warning over the top, and we can issue them that warning. That tends to have a little more oomph behind it other than, hey, please don't do that again. When I hand them a piece of paper that looks like a ticket, that acts like a ticket, they tend to have that little bit of a memory of, I'm not going to do that again in this spot, because they now know that we have a record of it. So that's any of our officers. If we scan their ID, we're going to have that record. That's going to be the guy that more than likely, if we're seeing a habitual offender that likes to speed in these areas, that guy is going to get that ticket. We like to provide grace when we can, and we like to educate when we can.
I got to ask, you're going to kill me, but I know you're saying you like to give grace and you like to educate. But how does that equate to the safety of our kids on these residential streets? I have my grandkids a lot. We're always outside on bikes, skateboards, scooters, everything else. I mean, if I don't put a traffic cone, which thank the Lord we're in construction, we have those, in the street, partially in the street, and me physically being in the street with them, I honestly think they get hit with how fast the people are going. So I know the grace and the education, but at what point are we just going to say, In the residential areas, no grace, no education. You pass the driver's test, you see the signs. Just here's your ticket.
Yeah. So, and that's going to be in law enforcement. I can't speak in absolutes. I could never tell you that we're always going to do this or I'm never going to do that. That's the one thing I can tell you in this industry. It never works that way. What I will say is that all of those things that you're talking about are articulable facts that are going to help me in that decision on whether or not this individual needs a ticket. In a residential area, absolutely. You're getting that ticket 9 times out of 10 when you're at that level that's a danger to society, because I agree with you. Now, the vast majority of the times when we're doing these, that they're getting those warnings, that's going to be the guys that are going 10 over on State Street. You're going 10 over in an area that you're squealing tires in a residential area, absolutely you're getting that ticket. And I've written them. So I can tell you that that is something that we do. The hardest part about it, and it's a complaint that we get from a lot of people, is, well, people slow down when you're in the area. And I know that. And so that's where we do what we can when we hide. But the other part that comes with that is they never know if we're going to be around that corner if they've seen us around that corner. The radar trailer is another one that we've used. The other issue that we have with these residential areas is, again, what I would be as someone who issues that citation is I could sit for 8 hours on a street, and at the 8 hour and 1 minute when I leave, that's when that guy rounds that corner and everybody goes, where's a cop when you need him? So, and that's what happens. So what I like to do is I like to provide information on, here's a permanent solution. And that's getting ACHD to come out there and doing a speed study. So that's getting them to be aware of this issue, because once they can do that, they can see about creating those speed tables. They can see about doing those speed bumps. We don't have that much say in that. What we do have that say in is if I am present and I am there and it is in the residential area that you are at, and there are kids present, absolutely, I'm going to do that. School zones, there's no grace in a school zone. There's no grace with a school bus. Those are areas that don't allow that. Now, I can tell you that the vast majority of my stops aren't going to be in those times because kids aren't always going to be out. So when they're in those areas, absolutely, I'm going to write that citation. But ACHD, they're a great permanent solution. They're a great entity to get out there because they can help solve that problem. We work with them hand in hand, and Jason Wasson, I think, Jared Wasson? John Watson. Yeah, John. Look, you know who he is. So we work hand in hand with him. When the speed studies happen, he actually will contact us and let us know, hey, this area's issues. We need to see what we can do to help out. And we go out there to those areas and do those studies as well. So we work through that.
So John's with the ACHD.
Yes. Yeah.
Does he have a last name?
Wasson. Yeah.
Speaking of John, regarding South Main, again, we did a traffic study, and an overwhelming amount were exceeding it by more than 10 miles an hour. So they do a cut-through study where they count the cars and the time it takes for them to get from Star Road over to State Street on South Main. And we did not pass the cut-through study percentage, but we had 90% of the property owners on South Main sign a petition agreeing to want traffic, it's not traffic calming, it's called.
Mhm.
And so they went to Ada County Commission, and even though we didn't have the prerequisite number of cut-throughs, they approved us for traffic, for speed tablets. Don't call them bumps.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
wants a bump. It's got to be a tablet.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's got to cut through for emergency vehicles so they don't have to bounce around.
Yeah.
And they're doing several of those. And that day that they passed us, they passed several other streets that did not have the cut-through requirement met.
Yep.
So John Watson is his name with ACHD.
And he's an awesome guy that helps out with a lot of these. The other one that we have is, if you notice, Plummer has those electronic speed limit signs now on there. Those are a great thing too that have helped out immensely, because again, half the time people in these new cars, there's no road noise, there's no other information. So the stimulus, it shows your speed as you're going. So the stimulus that isn't there, that's normally there, guys are going a lot quicker now, and they're looking down and going, holy cow, I was doing 50. It's like, yeah, man, you were flying.
And just so you know, we didn't decide where those signs are put.
No.
I know that some people are like, well, yeah, it's only 20 feet from the intersection. And so we didn't decide where those go. They just all said that we asked for them, and then ACHD decides where they go. And how that works, so Ada County Highway District is in charge of every road except for any highway, right? So like the 44, 16, 20, 26, that's all ITD. So yeah, it's all state. So Ada County Highway District does all your residential roads, and then ITD does all your highways.
Great discussion. Oh, here's another question.
This all sounds really, really great, and I'm so safe here in Star, but I have this one question. Any uptick, any gang activity that you become aware of? Or anything, you mentioned graffiti early on.
Yep.
And so that's the first thing that comes to mind, maybe just kids. But
Right.
what have you seen?
So, knock on wood, we're not seeing it very much in Ada County, especially not in Star. I will say that I've attended a few meetings that are Treasure Valley wide. And in Canyon County side of that, Nampa, Caldwell, they're seeing a little bit of uptick in gang activity. And what they're seeing happening, I grew up here in Boise. So back in late 90s, early 2000s, there was a gang problem in Nampa and Caldwell areas. The police got involved in that, did a great job of getting rid of those gang problems and put a lot of those people in prison. Well, what's happening is now they're getting out of prison, and it's their kids that are starting those gangs now. So it's coming back full circle again, and they're all, Nampa Police Department's doing a fantastic job being focused on it. Caldwell Police Department, same way. Canyon County Sheriff's Office, we're aware of it over here too. Luckily, again, on this side of the border, we don't see a whole lot of it over here, but it'll spill over at some point if we don't get a hold of it. And so we are seeing a little bit of uptick, and it's interesting to see the cycle come back around again. But so far for Star, so to answer your question, for Star, we're not seeing very much of it.
And part of what Deputy Cleveland and I do is we network with these individuals. So we actually will receive a monthly report as well that we get emailed to us. We've been invited to these meetings as well. So we have these networks out there that these individuals have reached out to us. We haven't been made aware of any issues out this way, but we are in the loop when it comes to those activities.
So Chief or Deputy Brashears, talk a little bit about some of the graffiti that we've seen. I know we've had some successful apprehensions there, and kind of what are you seeing, and who's making who's tagging us, and kind of how do you deal with it?
So we've had again, we're growing at, Chief Tominski said about 13%. I had about 16% on, we had about 2,500 people last year, the city of Star. With that are a lot of families, which is great. But with families come kids, and sometimes those kids get bored and they want to go graffiti. So Damian Rodriguez is our property crime detective, and he's very good at putting up cameras in certain areas that they look like green boxes. You can't really tell it's a camera, kind of camouflage in there. So he's really good at doing that, looking at it. A lot of that, I know the city of Star is fantastic at putting up cameras. As a matter of fact, they're putting up even more in our park areas. Those cameras are huge in finding out these people are. And then Alan Takeuchi, who's our Star Middle School resource officer, he knows a lot of the kids there working at the Star Middle School. And when somebody puts a cool tagging on something, they usually like to talk to their friends about it. Well, then it gets around to him. So we do have a pretty high success rate of finding who's doing it. A lot of times it is your juveniles that are, that 15, 16, 14 age. Every once in a while it is an adult that does it too. So, but so far we're doing a pretty good job on staying on top of it. We're still trying to find who it was that did the skate park recently. We haven't closed that case out, but we're still following some leads on that one. So, but yeah, hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know one of the other jobs that I do is work with the sports and rec department, and a couple knuckleheads painted one of our Connex boxes over at the park. And as people who do things that aren't legal often do, is they got on social media to brag about it. And so we now had some volunteers to help clean off that paint because they admitted to it on social media. So we appreciate when they do those things. Hey, if it's okay with you, we're going to keep going. We've got the city engineer, and we've got some more questions online. So I think we're just going to kind of keep going a little bit. But Mr. Morgan, why don't you talk a little bit about your role? You play a dual role with the city. Kind of talk a little bit about that, and kind of just high level what you do. And then I've got some questions for you from online.
What if I say it's not okay to keep going? Oh. No. As you heard, the mayor is traveling and was not able to be here, and his fill-in was not last minute canceled on us. So I'm the sub for the sub. So I get to try and fill two large pairs of shoes today. But my name is Ryan Morgan. I am the city engineer. Just as a background for me, I used to work for a private engineering firm, and for the last 10 years or so, we were the contract engineers for the city of Star. And I got to know the staff here, and I got to work with the staff pretty closely over the course of from about 2014 to about 2022. In 2022, it came time for me to, in my personal life, make a career change. And I thought I was going a different direction. When the city found out that I was going in a different direction, they reached out to me and said, what if you came here full time? So since February of 2022, I have been full time at the city of Star. Well, mostly full time because I also, as Mr. Field, Mr. Ryan Field indicated, I serve a dual role. I also work for the Sewer and Water District, which happens to be next door. So I get to be the engineer for both the Sewer and Water District and for the city of Star, which means I get to see a lot of what's happening in Star as we're growing and as we're building. As many of us here at City, I wear multiple hats here. So not only am I the city engineer, I also happen to be the city floodplain manager. And so I work with FEMA and I work with those individuals. Star is very blessed by the fact that we have a great natural resource that flows through town with the Boise River. But with that, there are some inherent dangers and some complications. And I get to be the one that helps work with FEMA, local, state, federal agencies to help control what's happening with that river and some of the growth that happens down by the river.
Great, thank you. It was a great opportunity to get Ryan in, and so from a cost savings measure, I know that the two chiefs have talked a little bit about that. The city went through and did some analysis as well. One of the things that we found was we were spending an awful lot on paying a third-party engineering firm to do our engineering, and we felt that if we partnered with the sewer district next door, we could keep an engineer busy full-time and we could share the cost. And so that's just a break for the taxpayers, right? We found a way to save that money. And I think by the time we brought Ryan in, within 3 or 4 months, we had already done, we'd saved basically that a year's worth of expenses that we would have paid the third-party engineering firm. And that's because we don't pay them at a couple dollars an hour. And so,
and with that, I get to be more responsive and I get to be more involved. I have commented several times to some of my fellow staff members that I had no idea the day-to-day stuff. You know, when I was working in that private firm, I was down here maybe 4 to 5 hours a week. And now I'm here every day, either next door at the Sewer and Water District or here. And I have offices in both buildings, but that doesn't mean that on any given day, if I'm sitting in that office and I'm always at both places almost. I bounce back and forth 3 or 4. I'm grateful that they're as close as they are. Otherwise, I'd be getting a lot of steps instead of just a few.
but it's still only 5 or 6 hours a day. A week. Don't let him fool you. But we're extremely grateful to have Ryan here and just the knowledge base that he brings. We just couldn't let him go to leave. He's been with the city so long, and everything that he knows from our sewer district and all the water and the sewer and the wastewater facilities to everything that we do within the city, it was just too important to let him go. And so I'm grateful the mayor and the public works director next door were able to work together and to get Ryan. We've done that in a couple ways in the city. We currently did that with our IT. Before, the city had a third-party IT, so did the district, and so did the fire department. And so we all three got together, thanks to Chief Tominski. And I think that the fire and the sewer district just told the mayor what they were doing, but they just got together. So we now hired a full-time IT person, and we share them between the 3 districts. And again, another cost-saving measure. Instead of 3 departments paying 3 outside firms, we now have 1 person on full-time. And let me tell you, that is huge. When I need help, I don't need to wait till tomorrow to get my computer fixed. I need to do it today. And having somebody close has been amazing. When they have something go wrong with the computers in their truck, they can't wait. That's life-saving stuff. They can't wait. And so to have somebody on top of it right away has been huge. So we're constantly looking at ways to try to do things better and to try to save money. And one of the things that the mayor does is spend money. And one of the ways that he spends money is on our parks. We have a park impact fee. And right now we're working on a huge park, Mr. Morgan, that online we have a question. And can you give us an update on the disc, I almost said Frisbee, the disc golf course that is being built at Freedom Park? And actually just give us an update on Freedom Park.
So as my role with the city engineer, I get to work with the mayor on a lot of the parks. So I worked on the dog park, was actually the lead designer for that. And then after I came and joined the city was to help manage the construction of it. The Freedom Park project, if you don't know the Freedom Park project, that's out by the River House. It's got the two large ponds up by the Boise River, sits kind of back behind the Heron River subdivision. It's 80 acres. I think that's what it is, give or take. 80. A lot of that park, there's not going to be like some of our other parks. It's not going to be as manicured with lawn and stuff. We're going to try and leave it more open, more natural. There will be lots of pathways that go through there. We're going to end up with close to a mile of pathways that wind around the ponds. And all of those pathways are 10-foot wide. They're concrete. As part of that, the disc golf course is going to be a great amenity. I happen to be a disc golf player, so I'm really excited for it. But I can tell you that currently, I was out there on Monday walking through the park with the mayor. We were looking at stuff. I can tell you that I would say more than half of the when you play disc golf, you start from a concrete. You start from a what we call a tee box. All ours are going to be concrete, which is a great amenity because then they don't get slick, they don't get muddy, you don't slip and fall. They get lots of use. So I will tell you more than half of those concrete pads have been poured. We are looking, hopefully, the park in and of itself, along with the disc golf and everything that's associated with that, we are targeting to have most of that open by mid to late June. We've had pretty good weather the last couple of months. If weather turns wet and rainy, and we've had some of that when we've had delays, but we anticipated actually more weather problems than what we've had this year. So if things continue to be go as well as they have weather-wise, we hope that we can have that park mostly open early to midsummer.
Super excited about Freedom Park. Ryan, get ready. Dana's going to read a question for you. It's coming in online, and I believe it's about a traffic box.
When you're southbound on Brandon, turning east on Floating Feather, the utility box on the northwest corner blocks the view of oncoming traffic on Floating Feather. This is very dangerous.
Well, as we have heard earlier by our police chief, all the roads in Star, unless you're talking about Highway 26, Highway 44, Highway 16, are owned, operated, and maintained by the Ada County Highway District. So unfortunately, we've got a relationship with them. We work with them. We will reach out to them, but those traffic boxes are under their control. Those traffic boxes, the streets are under their control. So other than try and work with them and try and put a little bit of pressure on ACHD, there's not a whole lot of control we at the city of Star can do.
We do have a meeting coming up with them in the near future, and we'll certainly bring it up with them and see if there's anything that can be done.
Next Wednesday. Next Wednesday.
Yeah. So that's a great question. Any more questions online, Ms. Dana? All right. Any questions for our city engineer or anyone else on our panel? There we go. Love it.
Hi. I live up in Trident Ridge, which is north of Beacon Light and Wing. And Hayden Holmes, about 2 or 3 years ago, who's the builder of my community, donated 50 acres to the city, as well as, my understanding, $60,000 for a footbridge to go over the irrigation canal. And I'm just wondering, and I know that a couple years back, the mayor had spoken at either like the state of the city, or maybe when he was reviewing budgets, he talked about it, but I'm curious to know what's going on with that, because they're building and they're taking away my view as I walk the neighborhood. And so I want to be able to get up there.
You are correct. I believe it's about 55 acres that shortly will come into the city and will become city property. As of yet, that property has not been deeded over to the city. There's timing involved with their permits and final plating and all of that. I can tell you that timing is getting to the point that it's going to happen in the very near future. Could that be in the next couple of months? I would guess probably before the end of this year that property will be deeded to the city, at which point in time we will then, the pedestrian bridge is absolutely something that will be done. I would love to have that done by this time next year. Can't guarantee that, but once we get Freedom Park up and running, that will probably be, other than the mayor's always got something going on with Pavilion Park. And I don't know if you've been out there lately, Pavilion Park, which is where our dog park is. We've got pickleball courts that are being constructed. There are 6 of them. They will be open later this summer. Could be, when's our kickoff? Sometime in June.
June 1st is the grand opening kickoff for the pickleball courts.
We've got the splash pad that's out there now that is, we opened it last year. Come Memorial Day, we will turn the water on for that. Great amenity for the kids. We're building a basketball court. And because of everything else that's going on there, the mayor's decided that he wants to put some playground equipment out there. So the kids can come and play at the playground, go play in the water, go play basketball. All kinds of fun activities going on in that area. So, but that 55 acre up there at the end of Wing Road will become one of our next priorities. The 55 acres, if you come either direction on Wing Road, on Beacon Light, and you get to Wing Road, and you turn north, and you hit the dead end there at Wing Road, we plan on putting a cul-de-sac with parking there. At some point in time, I don't know how quickly, at some point in time, we want to put a trailhead there with restroom facilities, a footbridge that will get you across, and there will be public access. That park will be mostly natural terrain. We don't plan on putting sports fields or anything up there, just because of the terrain. There's lots of rolling hills up there. But there will be footpaths and probably some bike paths up there. At this point in time, we have not talked about restricting access to bikes for that. It won't be any motorized vehicles, but bikes, and absolutely all kinds of benches. There's going to be 3 or 4 different pavilions, covered structures out there. We've got, there's going to be, and Dana could answer more about this, but there's going to be kind of a garden back there with some native plants, and it's going to be kind of a cool amenity back there for some special needs. And so there's lots of fun stuff going on out there.
Can I bring you back to discussion of the traffic issues and what's going on there? And I'd like you to picture in your mind the intersection of Canada and State 44. There's one light there. The lineage, the street lineage there is all worn off. You can't see it. And when it's wet, you can't see it at all. That not visible at all. That serves about 2,000 people up Canada. It really needs to be attended. It's a little dangerous. It's very dangerous. I can't imagine somebody hasn't died there already. The reason for that is partly because traffic going on 44 is going lickety split. There's no buildings right there on the street, so consequently the traffic can see a long way, so it goes very fast right there. When somebody comes down there to try to turn, sometimes they turn into the oncoming traffic and then swerve back to get in line. I want to ask you, are you guys conscious of the problems of that intersection? And is there any plan to coordinate that with the state so that they spend their share of the money to get that fixed also?
I will tell you this, the widening of 44 from Star Road to Canada, that was city-funded projects with what we call our proportionate share. Any development that happens in Star has to agree to pay proportionate shares that we as the city get to collect, and then we can use that to improve state funded or state maintained roads. And we've got a great agreement with the Idaho Transportation Department to do that. All that work was completed last year. We have been talking with the contractor. There is still some striping, some paint that needs to be put out there. But I can also tell you that there's not a week that goes by that we don't talk about what can we do at Canada and 44 to improve that. We have had lots of conversations with, and that's a very unique road in this valley because you actually have 3 traffic entities plus the city of Star that are interested in that intersection. You've got the Idaho Transportation Department, you've got the Ada County Highway District, and then because that sits on the county line, you also have the what's called Highway District 4, which manages about a third of Canyon County highway roads. So you've got 3 entities there, and to try and get those 3 entities to all agree on what needs to be done with that intersection can be challenging at times. There has been a lot of talk about a light, and I think we finally have all entities agreed that there needs to be a light there. In fact, as part of and I hate to bring this word up, the Willowbrook development, they are required before they get start building homes up there, they are required to put a light there. They will fund that. They will have there will be some agreements in place that other developments will have to reimburse them for that. But the plan and the goal is sooner than later, there will be a traffic light at that intersection. And by sooner or later, I mean the next 3 to 4 years. They have not applied for any permits yet. This is the Willowbrook community that's up above. They're up above Hillsdale at the north edge of Star, the one that was annexed last year.
Yeah, and Ryan, I just want to add to that. So back here on the wall is what we call our ECAMP map. It's our Economic Corridor and Access Roadway Connection Management Plan. This is on our website. So if you look at this, it will tell you where we are planning or where we're trying to work with the different agencies on a light. If that light's been approved, if it's in the plan, et cetera, you'll see those all on there, and you'll kind of see some additions on there of roads that we plan to try to work to get extended to make connectivity better. That's on our website under our map section. And so you can go in there and look at that. Ryan sits on that committee along with the mayor and our city planner, as well as we have a transportation committee that's made up of volunteers here in the city. Most of those on that committee, believe it or not, are retired engineers, retired highway directors. I mean, we have some very, very talented people on that committee, and we're making great progress on there. So you'll see, if I encourage you to look at this one and to go online and look. Here pretty soon, you're going to see lights in places that you're currently struggling with, and it's going to make our commute a lot better.
Yep, and Highway District 4, the Canyon County side, their map and our maps, now we've worked very closely with them. If you look at their projected growth, our maps and their maps almost perfectly align. Us and ACHD have worked very closely to where those maps are going to align. And ITD, we have talked with them extensively, and they have signed off on our map and have approved it. So those maps are a true indication of what we as STAR want to see, and we have buy-in from our traffic agencies to help us get there.
So are you planning on extending Wing Road up to Willowbrook?
As part of the Willowbrook agreement, that road was agreed not to be constructed. So there will be, in the foreseeable future, there will be no road there. And so unless we get a new mayor, new city council and all that, our current council and mayor have agreed that is not in the best interest of the citizens of Star.
And I did just want to mention about that park up there. Currently, that driveway, if you go to the end of that cul-de-sac, that's private property. And so I'm sure that the owner up there would just appreciate if we all didn't drive and cross the canal and go up into his property. So when that's all done, we'll have a public area to park and then to cross the canal. But right now, that's all private property. So it's fun to go up there and drive and look. Just please don't go onto his property.
Don't cross the canal. That is a private bridge at this point in time.
Okay. So I have a question about streetlights in the city of Star. So who maintains them if there's a light out, particularly at not the traffic lights, but like at an intersection where kids may be crossing when it's like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, 6 o'clock, and it's pretty dark? Who's responsible for those? And who can we contact if a streetlight is out?
You know, that's a really good question. I think Ryan Field and I are going to tag team that question, but the short answer is the City Star actually owns what? Only the streetlights in front of City Hall and in our parking lot. Most of the streetlights are owned either by the business entity that fronts that street or by the HOA that streetlight is in.
So it's very unique in the city of Star. And the fact is, as development is built out, we put into the development agreement that the owners of that property must own and maintain the streetlights. So there are very few streetlights. There's one at the corner of Plummer and Highway 44. That's actually maintained by the Highway Department. There's very few of those. The ones that are down here in front of City Hall that run from here down to Cosmo, City Hall owns and maintains those. Everything else, for the most part, and there might be a few exceptions here and there, are owned and maintained by the owner of the property. So all the streetlights in a subdivision are owned and maintained by the HOA. All the streetlights out here in front of, if you go in front of Albertsons, those are all owned and maintained by the Albertsons development. And so it's, when you see them out, we know that they're out as well. We recently just had an electrical company come and start here at Cosmo and go all the way to Canada and work on all of the streetlights on Long 44 to get them running. We footed that bill, and we'll be working with the landowners adjacent to get those reimbursed for that.
So is there a code written for that? Like, what are the penalties if there are streetlights that are out and they're not putting them?
So that's a good question. Our code currently really doesn't have any penalty for streetlights that are out. One of the things that we're currently doing right now is rewriting our code. So if you can imagine Star in, I think Chief said 2017, we had 3,000 people. And now in 2024, we have 19,000 people. Our code was not designed to grow with our population. We were this little podunk town. We were born and raised here. We were literally a blink as you drove through. So we are working to update our code. Our code really does not address a lot of the consequences of not doing things, and we're working to change that. We're having a code revision. It was supposed to be on April 2nd, and for some technical difficulties, it's gotten pushed back till May now. But those are some of the things our code update will address, is what happens in that. Usually what happens is I call and bug the HOA management until they can try to get something fixed. But right now, there's not really a lot of teeth in our code for that.
And I will just add to that. I don't know how many of you know our mayor. He doesn't like to sleep. I don't know what it is about him, but he doesn't like to sleep. There are many a times that he's out driving after dark. He knows where the streetlights are and where they're out. And there's not a week that goes by, and most of the time it's 2 or 3 times a week, that Ryan Field and I are getting pinged, said, streetlights are out, get them fixed.
So the code that you're going to be revising, so is that going to be so many foot candles that each light is supposed to be illuminating? And if you find areas that aren't illuminated per that code, does that subdivision have to put another light in?
So currently our code says streetlights at intersections only. I don't know that we plan on updating that section of it, but we have a specific model, specific style of lights that we at the city like to have. They're downward facing. We do have a dark sky ordinance. And so you're not going to find, unless a developer chooses, you're not going to find a whole lot of streetlights that aren't at the intersections, but we do require one at every intersection at the end of every cul-de-sac.
We, as part of the dark sky ordinance, there is a measurement for a percentage of foot candles that does trespass onto adjoining properties. And when that happens, we do work with the developers to make sure that they use cutoff shields to try to avoid what we call fugitive light. I know it's kind of a weird term, but we do everything we can to make sure that we're lighting what needs to be lit for safety reasons, but we're trying to be dark and respectful of dark sky as well. So, yeah.
So just talking about the special term that you just used for the light flooding over into from your neighbors. It'd be cool if you could do something with code for houses so that they have to have downlights as well. Because my back neighbors, they turn their lights on and my living room is flooded with light, truly.
New homes do have that requirement.
So
Fairly recently.
yeah, we try to encourage all homes to use soffit lighting and no more outside lighting that shines up. But I will tell you, there is a code that prevents your neighbor from doing that. That is active and on the books right now. And so I will tell you that if you want to get with me afterwards, what's going to happen, I can send them a letter, let them know that they're in violation. The problem is that we have these great big huge floodlights that people are putting in their backyards now. And so those have to be angled so that they can't trespass into your yard. And so I usually, what it takes is me sending a letter, going out, working with them on re-angling. Sometimes they got to take them down. It just, but we have to find that fine line of where do we balance safety and discomfort. And it's a very, very fine line.
I guess going back to this question, to the streetlight thing again, I hate to do this, but if you're around a pond or a lake, you're going to have automatic reflection from lights that are downward facing. Does that code still deal with that?
So it's a good question. We're not going to be able to solve all of the reflective light that comes off of bodies of water. And to be honest, most everything that is fronting a lake is the rear of the yard. So we're mainly concerned with the fronts of houses. Our code, we strive to stay out of people's backyards as much as we possibly can, unless it does become extremely obtrusive, like you turn on the lights and it looks like a runway in your living room because of the backyard of a neighbor's house. But really, most of our code we try to stay is front yard facing. Yeah, good question though. Hey, it's 5 o'clock. This is awesome. This flew by. I didn't have to make up questions or ad lib or nothing. Is there anything else that, while we've got this great panel, that we want to ask them before we cut them loose? It's pretty rare that we get to have them for this long a time without any interruption. Okay. Well, we'll thank Chief Tominski, Chief Hessing, Deputy Brashears, and Ryan Morgan for coming. And thank you for coming. This was great. Hey, this happens every month on the third Wednesday of every month. Same bat time, same bat location. So we'd love to see you here. Have a great afternoon, everybody.